This is my intro music. Welcome to the video. I hope you like it lots, so don't forget to subscribe and click the thumbs up button. Now let's react.
Hey! Hey, hi, hello there, and welcome to another episode of An Anthropologist Watches, well, Amberlyn Reed, but we're looking at Tammy Robertson today. I'm not exactly reacting to Tammy-ish, but we're kind of reacting to Tammy. Also, I got a new mic. Tinny baby. So, work with me here. I think I've got it set up right. It might be a little tinny. All right, so that being put aside, we're going to talk about some things about Tammy and about Amber, mainly because, one, I don't care. And I'm very sorry that I don't care. I have complicated feelings about Tammy, mainly because, I get that Tammy's upset, and I get that Tammy perceives that she has been shat upon by her family, and I get that there's, some complicated family dynamics that are going on with Tammy and the rest of her family, and I get that there's some back and forth going on with Tammy and Amber, and I think Mama Lynn has finally thrown in, so I've been abandoned. So I get that there's, a bunch of stuff going on, and I get that Tammy's been publishing call records and text messages and things like that, and that's cool and everything. There's been a couple things here and there that I thought have been particularly entertaining, but the reality of the situation is we're not really learning anything new other than Amber's a compulsive liar. I don't know if Amber could tell the truth if her life depended on it, and apparently it's going to. Well, not her life, but her livelihood. Because Tammy is apparently taking Amber to court. That has my interest. It has come to my attention that a channel called Hecticana is going to maybe go to court and sit in the courtroom, assuming it's an open to the public case. I don't know how Oklahoma runs their courts. I know that not all courts are open. Some courts are. I'm going to assume maybe this one is. It's a civil case, so I don't know. So there's that. But if that is possible, I would be very interested to see how that case goes. Just because I'm always interested to see how things like defamation, how a defamation case really plays out. Yeah, because this would be defamation, right? Slander's in writing. No, libel's in writing. Anyway, my point is, I'd like to see how this court case actually plays out, just because I am interested. Because should Tammy sue Amber successfully for shit Amber says online using her YouTube platform, this actually affects not just Amber, but YouTube creator channels as a whole. All right? I know we're all like, ooh, Tammy's suing Amber. Yes, it's true. Tammy is suing Amber. Should Tammy win this case could have repercussions for a lot of YouTube channels. So that's kind of interesting to me. Now, is Tammy the first person to sue a YouTube channel? No. Is Tammy's case the most influential, non-public person suing a YouTuber? No. But it is a small case. It is a person suing a YouTube channel. How this plays out will be interesting to me. So there's that. There's a couple cases I need to get caught up on that I was kind of half-assedly following that I need to figure out where to find out how those turned out, because this kind of stuff is happening. It's going forward. And frankly, I think it's something that needs to happen. Shit gets said on the internet that shouldn't be said on the internet. There needs to be some repercussions for some of this shit that gets said on the internet. Case in point, crap that happened over the weekend that I had to listen to Rosie talk about, like she had some fucking input on it. We'll get to Rosie. So yeah, this is kind of where I wanted to be. I don't care where Amber is. She told us she was going to take some time off, which props. Do I think she's coming back? I mean, my gut reaction says yes, but there's this little voice that's like, maybe not. But this is her only income. What else is she going to do? She's like Foodie. What else is she going to do? So yeah, Amber's probably going to come back. So I guess we'll see her in October. Wasn't that when she said she was going to come back? Just for my birthday. Woo! If you're wondering, it's September 25th, or no, it's not. It's September 15th. So I figure now's as good a time as any to start bringing in ye old Halloween spirit. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I've got to say about all of that. Do I care about the individual posts that Tammy is making and the individual videos that Tammy is making? Not really, not so much. It's pretty much the same thing. Here's my complicated feeling about Tammy. And I know some of you are going to agree with me, and some of you are not going to agree with me, and that's perfectly fine. Shush. Because here's the deal. Personally, Tammy reminds me of people in my life that I do not interact with because they are just emotional sinkholes that are incredibly impossible to deal with because nothing is ever good enough for them and you cannot make them happy. So I just don't deal with them. Like, I have literally cut entire people out of my life like Tammy because I just can't handle them. Right? So that's my deal with Tammy. And I know a lot of people are like, no, Tammy's, the champion of her family and she's just tired of getting shat on and yada, yada, yada. Okay, sure. No, I'm not saying that's not true. I'm not saying Tammy doesn't have some issues. I'm not saying that whole fucking family's not messed up. Clearly, there is some deep-seated issues there. This family has problems, and we get to watch. But, like, as far as, like, being Team Tammy or whatever, I'm not. I'm not anti-Tammy either. I just don't have the overwhelming sympathy that some people seem to have. And not everybody does. I'm not, like... It's not a black and white situation for Tammy. Like, there seems to be people who have more sympathy than less sympathy, but I don't think I see too many people that are like 100%, fully behind Tammy at all times, no matter what. Like, I don't think I've really encountered anybody like that, but I do see people who are like more sympathetic towards her than I am, I guess is where I should say. But I have also seen people who are way less sympathetic towards Tammy than I am, right? I have seen people who are just like completely against anything Tammy says. She's the devil, yada, yada, yada. Not that they're supporting Amber. Like, this is the other interesting aspect that I've seen about Tammy. It's not that these people who are anti-Tammy are pro-Amber. They just don't like Tammy, right? The Tammy phenomena is actually pretty interesting in that aspect, is watching the Amberverse and girl world kind of identify around Tammy, honestly. And I've already given you my own bias about Tammy and where I kind of fall. I don't think everything Tammy says is awful or untrue or blown out of proportion or exaggerated. I don't think everything she says is, and clearly she has, text messages and screenshots and shit to back up a lot of what she claims. So there's that. But at the same time, like, she is exhausting to me. And I can only imagine what that is like. But to be fair, if what Tammy shares with us is true, and just going off of Amber, and knowing Mama Lynn's past and hearing the stories that Tammy tells about Grandma Lynn, assuming they are accurate, we'll put that in quotation marks. This entire family is exhausting, okay? This entire family is like this, right? So Tammy is just a product of her environment, right? So there's that. I guess what I'm trying to say is Tammy is not an anomaly within her family, I guess is where I was going with that statement. So that's, I guess, the two major things with Tammy that are of interest to me is the different ways that the community has chosen to identify around Tammy, how they've chosen to view Tammy. A lot of it is through our own personal lenses. A lot of us are seeing in Tammy people in our own lives or people that we have interacted with throughout our lives, maybe even members of our own families. And so we are interacting with Tammy that way. She is not as polarizing as one would expect. I honestly thought she would be a little more polarizing, but she's really not. And I find that to be very interesting. And actually, I see that as a good sign because it hasn't been that far in the past that a character like Tammy might have come onto the scene, or even Tammy in the past. She has come onto the Amberverse scene in the past and just blindly been believed, right? So it is nice to see that the Amberverse is kind of learning, and, you know, we're not quite so black and white like as we used to be with our thinking here. So that's kind of nice to see. But it also means that, you know, the things that Tammy is saying are being held to a slightly higher standard than usual, than they have been in the past. But also, again, Tammy is providing receipts, something Amber is not capable of doing, or if she is, she refuses to do, or doesn't seem to understand how that works for some strange reason, because apparently the concept is difficult. Anyway, this is going to be an interesting court case should it actually go to court. Now, it's my understanding this is a civil case, not a lawyer. So this is just me and the internet. But it's my understanding this is a civil case. It's my understanding there could be lawyers involved, but since it's civil, I think they can represent themselves. I mean, they can represent themselves, period. It's the United States. But so I don't know how this is going to go down. I don't know how these things are going to get paid for. They both live in the same area, so there's not this complication of like having to travel across state lines or anything like that. So Amber doesn't have that excuse, I guess, is where I was going with that one. But I don't know what happens if Amber just doesn't show up to court, right? Because it's a civil case. I don't know if that's an automatic fine against her. I don't know. So, okay, there's my things. Tammy and things that are interesting about Tammy, coming back around, rambling. This is what happens when I don't have a script. Tammy's interesting because of how the Amberverse and the community itself is reacting to her, including myself. I include myself in that statement. And also, Tammy is interesting because of this court case, right? I'm really interested to see what happens, how it goes forward, what the result is. Will it get dropped? Will Amber agree to do an apology? What happens after she does the apology? Like, how many other people are going to come forward and be like, yeah, all right, say something else stupid, you know, that kind of a thing. Like, how many other cans of worms does this open up for Amber, kind of a thing? And also, how does this particular case, because, you know, civil cases can be brought up in other forms, in other cases, right? In other courtrooms. So, you know, just because this is a civil case in Oklahoma doesn't mean that this case can't be brought up in, you know, another case somewhere in another state, because this is a U.S. case. So it can be used as an example in other court cases. So that's kind of interesting to me. Will it? I don't know. But the potential is there. So that's interesting to me, right? Is this the most, like, public, groundbreaking YouTuber defamation case? Is this the defamation case of the century? No. It's Amber running her fucking mouth and finally getting consequences for it. Right? But it has the potential to have far-reaching consequences beyond Amber running her mouth and her aunt getting pissed off about it. All right? And that to me is very interesting. So anyway, that's about 15 minutes of me talking about Tammy and Amber. Right. I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about anybody else in this video. You know what? No, I'm going to keep this one short because honestly, I don't have a whole lot to talk about with Amber. Personally, I think Amber stepped back because honestly, I don't think she was doing well mentally. And I had said that long before she even talked about taking a break. Like, I think I'd said that in a live or something. So I could tell she was getting to the point where she was ready to disappear, especially since this was her live era. She doesn't do well with live eras. They don't tend to last terribly long because they're very stressful on her. And also, she didn't have a co-host, basically. And that definitely makes them harder because she can't carry a conversation. She's just not that interesting. And ever since she switched her lives from being members only to being public, but members only chat, that opened it up to the public being able to send her live chats and that kind of thing, but their messages could get through, right? And I think originally Amber, maybe I don't really know. Maybe she thought she could do that and she would make more money. Maybe she thought she would get a more positive reception than she received. I don't know. I really don't know. Either way, it wasn't the reception I think that she was expecting. Maybe she did make the money she was expecting. I think somebody said one of those lives that she did, she made like $800 or something off of that just from the live chats. I don't remember. That was just something I heard. You know, y'all can fact check me on that one if you want. But if that's true, you know, she kind of made bank right before she took off. So I guess she's set for a little bit, is kind of where I'm at with that one. So she probably can take off until October and not even feel the heat. And y'all have to remember that, like, her stuff, her backlogs get watched. So she's still making money off of her older videos. So she's probably fine. I always say that. She's probably fine. Is she making as much money as she does when she puts out fresh content? No. But she hasn't technically put out fresh content. She's been putting out lives, right? And I don't know how rewatchable her lives are. I don't go back and watch them myself. If I watch them the first time, that's it. You know, if I need to go back and go over her lives, I either watch a cut down version of it, or I just try to wing it because I don't want to watch her lives a second time. They're boring as hell. So there's that. Do I think she'll be back in October? Probably. I think she's probably going to come back with a Vlogtober kind of a thing, just to kind of cash in on Vlogtober. I know not everybody does it. It's kind of a thing. I'm going to try to do something, and it's kind of like the warm up to get to December, and maybe she'll hang around until December. I don't know. You know how she is. And then she'll probably try to do, what's the December one? Vlogmas. She might make it. She usually makes it until like the last 3 days of Vlogmas and then craps out. That's usually how this works. And then we don't see her again until after the new year. At least she told us she was leaving this time. That's all I have to say about that one. I mean, I'll give her her little tinsel star for that one. Other than that, I have no idea what she's doing right now. You know, I really don't. Maybe she really is having some physical health issues that she just cannot deal with. Maybe she really is having some mental issues that she just cannot deal with. I don't know. All right. I'm sure there's places on the internet where we can go and find out exactly what she's been doing the last she been gone 3 weeks yet? I don't know. But that's the thing. So I'm sure there's ways to find out what she's been doing. I'm not going to those parts of the internet to find out. I probably could go check out her Instagram, though. That I could go do. That being said, that's pretty much all I wanted to say about the whole Amber situation and the Tammy situation. And I just wanted to let people know that, yes, I am aware of what's going on. It is atypical. This is actually very atypical for Amber. And it's mostly because of Tammy. This is incredibly atypical because of Tammy. I think I've told you what I thought was interesting about the Tammy situation. The two things that I think are fascinating that I keep an eye on and an ear out for, and that's pretty much it. I think after the court case, I don't know, it'd be interesting to the court case will determine if it's interesting to continue to follow Tammy and this whole family drama thing. So we'll come back around to that topic after the court case. So there's that. And I guess if Amber comes back in October, we'll come back to seeing about reacting to Amber's content in October. I don't really see a point to doing retro reacts unless there's something specific that you guys really want me to react to. And I don't know. I guess if you guys want to drop a comment under this video about if there's something very specific you want me to react to, and it doesn't have to be that old, then I'll go over it. But like, as far as just like digging through her crap to find something to retro react to, I don't really see a point to it. because what is there to talk about? She's a shitty pet owner. She's abusive to her girlfriends. She's got diarrhea of the mouth that gets her into trouble. You know, her and Tommy may or may not still be together. I don't fucking know. And even if they are, that's a shit relationship. You know, neither of those people seem to be very good people. Maybe it's okay they're together. You know? That kind of a thing. So there's really nothing I can add to any of that. And as far as like talking about, you know, dark anthropology and the manipulation aspect of it all, like I've covered that. I really have. There's really nothing new to add to that. The only thing I can really do as far as like coming at it from a dark anthropology aspect of it is to honestly talk about the community itself and just how the community itself likes to watch the Amberverse. Like the Amberverse itself likes to watch Amber and all of her shenanigans fall down. I kind of did that when I went over lemon shortbread bites video. So I've kind of already done that. But you know, you guys let me know down below if there's anything retro you want me to go over. And that's pretty much all I've got for you guys. So that's it for your Amberverse update. Happy spooky season. I should get like a cooler spooky intro, but this is the first one I've done for spooky season. Spooky season. So I will see everybody in the next video. And yeah. Thank you to everybody who's been supporting the channel. Thank you to my subscribers. Thank you to my members. You guys rock. Thank you to everybody who's going to hit a thumbs up button. If you've made it this far in the video, go ahead and put a witch's hat. I think there's a witch's hat down in the comment section down below. And I will see everybody in the next video.
This
Bye!
is my outro music. You can't copyright strike me because it's just me singing. This is my outro music. Thank you for watching. See you next time.